Hey, what's up? Sorry it's a little windy. I'm like walking over to the gym. Just had another baby, so I got some time off work, so I'm not in the car, so it's going to be a little more noisy. But if I don't do this, it's never going to happen. So I apologize for my extreme unprofessionality. Continues as we talk about a new anime that I'm watching. So it's, see if I can pronounce this right, Arifureta. And thus far, after the first episode, it's some sort of isekai anime. There's like a whole group of people that seem to have come from another world, and then they were trained to like go into this dungeon to like fight something. But we actually start off with the main character guy. He's like, he fell down like a hole, and he's like, I'm not supposed to be here, I'm not that good of a fighter. We learn that he's really not. He's like the weakest of this whole batch of people. And then he almost gets killed by these like monsters in the deep levels of this dungeon. But then somehow, even though he gets like mauled by a bear monster, he ends up like under like a mana crystal, which is very restorative. And so because of that, he doesn't die, but then he gets real hungry, and then he's really smart. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to live. I'm going to drink the water from this crystal, or the water that's been infused with this crystal, and I'm going to go eat some of these monsters. And so he does. But as he eats these monsters, he starts to gain their powers. So he eats like a couple wolf monsters, so he can use like lightning stuff, and then he eats like a rabbit monster, so he can teleport and do something else. And then finally he finds that bear monster. Oh yeah, the bear monster like, bit his hand off, or his arm off. So he beats the bear monster and then eats him to get whatever powers those are. And he also like fashions a gun. Yeah. And he infuses it with like magic bullets or something. So thus far, this anime is fantastic. It doesn't make any sense. But it's got my favorite thing, which is eating your enemies to gain their strength. Which is hilarious because I watched this first episode with my 4-year-old, which I should not have. It's not for her. But she was up early because the kids were sick, and we got the baby, so I'm up early, getting the house ready. I just had it on. And just the day before, I was joking with her, talking about how like you feast upon like the brains and heart of your enemy, you gain their powers and intellect. Because yeah, I'm a crazy person. But then we watched it literally happen, and she's like, "Oh, look, he's eating him so he can gain his powers." And I was like, "Nailed it." Anyway, there's some backstory. It seems like before he fell, he was with this group of people, and he was kind of just backing them up, and a lot of them were much stronger than him, as like wizards or fighters or whatever. And then it seemed like there was like a teacher guy who wanted him to die, and then they're like doing something, they set off a trap, and it summoned like this giant boss monster, and then they were like trying to escape, and then he went to like save this girl, and so he was going to die, but then they all cast like magic or something at this monster, but then one person hit him with the magic, which knocked him down the cavern in the first place. So I'll find out more about that later, I'm sure. Okay, so we got episode 2 and 3 of Arifureta. We learn a little bit more about the school kids. We learn that there's school kids. There's a teacher that shows up for like 1 second, and that they all got transported to this world, this isekai world, obviously. So the isekai problem here is like, okay, there used to be 3 races. There are 3 races. There's the beastmen, the demons, and the humans. And then the humans and the demons are like fighting it out, and the demons are winning because they learned how to use the power of monsters or something. And so these kids got isekai over here so they could be warriors and stuff. We learned that there's a girl, she's like a priest or something, like a healer class, who has a thing for the main character guy who's trapped in the dungeon. We also learned that there's another guy who likes her, and that he was the one who sabotaged the guys who fall deeper in the dungeon, right? And there's this like samurai girl, she kind of gets like a hint at it, but she's like, no, he wouldn't do anything crazy and all that. And then we learn more about this guy's power. He talked about it a little bit in the first episode, but it's something to do with like synergy. That's not what he calls it. But it's this whole thing where he can like touch ground and create walls and like morph things, and that's how he's able to like create his gun. And he creates like a sniper rifle in this one too. At some point I forgot that he'd lost his arm and never came back. But he spent some time killing more monsters and going deeper down. For some reason he's like, I can't go up, so I must go to the bottom and then I can go up. It's like, oh, okay. So he's doing that, he's getting more powers and killing more things, and then he stumbles upon this like excuse me, I don't know why I can't breathe. He stumbles upon this room, and he kills 2 Cyclopses, which is, the battles in this are pretty good. So he kills him in this pretty cool battle, and then he gets in there, and there's this naked chick in this cube, and she's like, I'm a vampire princess and was trapped and betrayed by my people. You must rescue me. And he's like, nah, I'm good. And she's like, please. And he's like, oh, I was betrayed, so sure, why not? So he rescues her, and then there's a spider monster, and she was betrayed because she was the most powerful vampire of all time or something, because she can something mana something, and then there's a whole very erotic thing going on where they this is how it happens, but during the battle she bites him, just takes him his blood, and then they team up and use their powers to kill this monster, and then he eats the monster. And I guess not everyone can eat the monsters. We learned that he can specifically because of his special ability, which makes him not really, he's more of an alchemist, right? Less, he's a transmuter instead of an actual warrior class or something. And so then we, hey buddy, wake up. So that's why you can eat monsters and gain powers, which is pretty good. It's him and this chick, they do stuff, and then the other big monster in episode 3 is this plant monster that is causing spores, and so the vampire chick gets captured. I think he names her Yue. We find out that the vampires their kingdom got destroyed 300 years ago, and so there's a question about how old this chick is, how long she's been in this dungeon being held. She also reveals that there was this group, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, of people who made these labyrinths because they were fighting, and then they were losing the battle versus the humans or everybody else or something, and so they retreat. Oh, they were fighting the gods. That's what they were doing. And then they retreated down to these tunnels to hide, and that's why they exist, I guess. Like I said, we get a little bit of going back and forth with the rest of the kids. Very little. It's if they had just not done that, that would have been better in my opinion, because the main character guy, he's kind of like an edgelord at this point with the white hair and everything and missing arm and making guns. Like a medieval guy setting. But he's cool, and the battles are fun, and he's killing random monsters, and then he's got you got your 1,000-year-old lonely vampire, which is mwah, one of my favorite things in the whole world. And then for some insane reason, I'm watching this with my daughter, and she's like, I like her. She's a princess. She's a vampire princess. She's boring. Not the vampire princess. Anyway. Oh, man. So that's fun. Let's see. No, they did that. Yeah, so there's a montage of them just working their way down. There's 100 floors, and they're going to the bottom for whatever reason. So they can get out? I don't know. They talked about it briefly, but the show is not really spent a lot of time really going off about intellectual stuff. It's hey, you want to see a lonely vampire princess? Got it. High five. You want to see this guy create a sniper rifle and not really use it? Yep. You want to speed monsters? High fives. High fives all around. Anything else? More explanation about the world? Go after yourself. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. So next up, we get pretty much just an extended battle with a kind of Hydra. The Hydra has a healing head, attacking head, defending head, and there's a hypnosis head, whatever. Anyway, so our main protagonist, Kun, and your Yue, the vampire princess, they just have a sweet battle. Not much happens. His name's Hajime. Hajime almost gets killed, but his love for Yue makes him strong. Plus, she gives him a bunch of potions by kissing. And they do a lot of kissing in this between the battle, and they eventually win. And so I'm excited to see what kind of superpowers he gets from eating this thing. And then we get a little bit. We see the teacher again, and she's arguing with the king or the priest or something about sending the kids back into the labyrinth. But they go back anyway, so they can get stronger and do stuff. Yep. So Arifureta, episode 5, takes us into the final level of the dungeon. So our boy Hajime wakes up naked with Yue, of course. And we find out that she dragged him into through the door after they killed the Hydra monster, and he passed out. And then there was this like beautiful little area with like an artificial sky, an artificial sun at night, and there's a big mansion, but most of the doors are locked. So he's been out for a little bit. And they go exploring, and they find this room with a skeleton, and there's like a magic circle. So once he steps inside, he gets all this information. And then the ghost, essentially, the ghost in the machine of the gentleman, which ends up being like a recording, informs him that, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but we learned an episode or two ago about mavericks who fought against the gods, and they were rebellious. But then he learns that the mavericks are actually trying to free the people from the gods. So if you're familiar with anything, I don't want to say like Japanese RPGs or anime, it's pretty much anything. Like you read Wheel of Time or whatever, like you know that like if the show or the presentation is going to be like, oh, these guys rebelled against gods and got destroyed and they left all these things behind, it's like they were probably the good guys. so no surprises. But hold on. So then, now that he has this information, he also learns some sort of ancient magic that helps him like transmute things better so he can make more stuff. And then he teaches it to Yue, which she's like, well, I can't really use this magic, but I can learn it. And he's like, yeah, you better learn it just in case, because it's ancient magic. And then he learns that the other labyrinths, I guess there's several, contain more ancient magic. Once you get to the bottom, it'll unlock all this stuff. So that's like the next mission arc / whatever, is to go get these other labyrinths full of stuff. Then he creates a bunch of stuff, like a Humvee, Gatling gun. He creates an arm for himself. He eats like as much monster. He essentially eats all the different types of monster meat that possibly can in this labyrinth, so he can gain all their powers. And we get like a montage of all that happening, and then we get like a final scene. There's like a warm bath in this mansion, and so we get the obligatory warm bath scene where he's chilling, enjoying his bath, and then the 1,000-year-old vampire lolly queen jumps in naked and is like, I'm all yours, whatever, no secrets between us, and gives him a big hug, and he's like, ugh. And then they're out to leave, and he's like, hey, it's just you and me, I don't care about this world, I just want to leave and go back to my world, you with me? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. And they're like, all right, let's go. Meanwhile, the rest of the class, they're working their way down. They get back down to I think it's the 65th floor or 64th floor where the behemoth was, which is where our boy Hajime got knocked down in the first place. And and they defeat the behemoth, and now they're all excited about that. And it's like, hooray. So I think that's all that really happens there. Yeah, and so at the end of the episode, Hajime and Yue are like, yeah, it's us against the world and whoever, and we're just going to be together. And it's very cute. It's a very good relationship they developed in the last few episodes. Like, it's very impressive how well they make you care about these characters and their relationship in just a few episodes, especially when a lot of it's just like kind of fighting. But the writing's so well done in the direction and everything that it really inures you to them quickly, which I very much appreciate. All right, then there's like a episode 5.5 situation, but it's just a recap. The only new information we get is right at the end. We see this like bunny girl, and I say bunny girl because she's got like bunny ears and then just looks like a hot anime girl. And she's like, oh, when are they going to get here? And then she gets like attacked by something, and then she sees like the teleportation circle, and she's like, oh, they're finally here. And the episode ends, and that's when my daughter was like, who is the bunny girl? Oh, goodness. She's 4. So this is all new territory for her. Oh, my goodness. All right, so I watched a couple episodes of Arifureta. This show is definitely like cruising. So I got through 6 and 7. In 6, we meet the bunny girl who is fan service. She's got big boobies and a nice booty, and she wants to get with the main character, of course. And she's like, she has the ability to do something that is like never really brought up, like to scan monsters or something. And so she got kicked out of the monster tribe. The monster tribe also kicked out all the other like bunny people. And the only thing that makes them bunnies is they have fluffy tails, like a bunny tail, and bunny ears, and that they are very lusty, I guess. That gets brought up at some point. Anyway, Hajime and Yue, they reluctantly go with her, and they find the people, and they kill all the monsters. And then it's pretty comedic. Like the show's been pretty serious up to this point, I would say, but now it's like very this episode and these 2 episodes are very like lighthearted and comedic. We just get a lot of her being treated poorly and lusting after Hajime, Yue being upset, Hajime being like whatever. And eventually they find like the tree that they were supposed to go to, but when they get to the tree, they find out they need to get like all the the rings from all the labyrinths and get some sort of regeneration magic before they can open up the tree, which is the final dungeon, I guess, somewhat. And so then he leaves the bunny people to like guard the tree and wait for him. And he's trained them up to be kind of like fierce fighters at this point. And then even, what's her name? It's like Shue or something. Shea. I think it's Shea. So Shea, the bunny girl, she's got a big hammer and she just like bonks things. Like she's like the brute of the group because she doesn't really have much magic. Just her ability to something monsters. Scan, I want to say. It's never used. So that's episode 6. Episode 7 rolls in, and we get they're at the next labyrinth, and again, it's kind of like more hilarity ensues. This labyrinth's like a trap dungeon, so they go through a lot of traps. They go around. They get like a squeaky girl voice making fun of them. They fight some things, and then eventually they get to like the boss, which is a big mechanical thing, and they're able to combine all their powers. Oh, we also learn at some point that this being this rebel or whatever, Maverick, I think is what they call him. He or she, she used something like crystals to make their magic powers much weaker. So it's very good they have Shea because she's all brute force. And then the guns just do gun stuff because they're literally guns. So with their powers combined, UA mostly uses freezing magic and stuff. Doesn't need to be powerful. It just needs to like hold things in place. They're able to destroy all the monsters and fight the boss and defeat them. And then they meet like this. And then like, of course the boss isn't like the person isn't dead. They're like in another body. And so they have some like hilarious banter, which is really not. This little arc was not as entertaining as the rest because it just takes such a light tone and it's just kind of like totally different than the rest. So I was like, man, I enjoyed the first part of this much more, the first 5 episodes. So we'll see if it improves over the last. I mean, there's like 5 more episodes after this. And then who knows? I don't know if this is based on a light novel or something. That'd be my assumption thus far. So okay, so then they get the treasure and they get a new magic. It's like a gravity magic that is specifically that only. I mean, everyone can with these magics. Like everyone can use them, but it's UA's. It's like very good for her to learn, I guess, according to the lady. And then they get flushed out, and because they get flushed out of the labyrinth, Shea is like drowning or she's unconscious because she swallowed too much water. So then Hajime resuscitates her, but then when she wakes up, she tries to make out with him, like pretty explicitly. Like tongue and everything, and she wraps her legs around him, and so he like knocks her out again, and Yue gets super mad, and then they go to an inn, and super loudly she declares that she wants to, or Yue and Hajime are obviously going to stay in a room together because they're together, but then Shea wants to be in a room with Hajime because she wants to mate with him. Very loudly she screams. It's just kind of funny, and that's kind of that. I mean, and then Yue like bonks her, and that's the end of that. So. Like I said, I think there's 13 episodes. Usually that's how these work. So we'll see where this takes us. So in episode 8 of Arifureta, I think this is episode 8. Yeah, this is episode 8. Our boy gets recruited, and his ladies in his harem get recruited by the guild master of like the kingdom to like rescue the son of a count, who's like the count's like a close friend of his. And that he promises, like, he'll do whatever favor he wants, Hajime wants later. So then they're going to do that, and they bump into the teacher who's in this area because they have rice. And her powers, I guess, from coming to this world are like rice-based or plant-based or growing-based situation. So she's there with a bunch of students, including one student from the last episode who was like, I'm going to go help. And it's like, oh, you're helping with this farming situation. Okay, that's less dramatic. Anyway, so the whole crew of students are there. And the teacher, and then they see Hajime and his harem walk in, and they're like, he sounds familiar. And then someone calls him like Hajime, and she's like, that's him. And so she runs after him, and they go back and forth, and he's like, I'm not going to help you, I don't care, leave me alone. And they bicker, and then we find out, the important stuff is we find out that the humans are really racist against beastmen. And there's like a guard with the teacher, and he says some really racist stuff, and then Hajime shoots him with like a dummy round, essentially, to like knock him down but not kill him. And he's like, you do that again, I'll kill you. And then he's like, you're gonna leave us alone. And then we also, the most important thing we find out is that while Shea, who's the bunny lady, is sleeping, he likes to pet her ears, and Yue like reveals it, and then Hajime's all embarrassed, and he's like, you said you would never say anything about it. And she's like, oh, I'm so horny. Later that evening, after Hajime blows him off, he shows back up to the teacher's place and like walks in and is like, hey, let me tell you the history of the world. And so we've gone over this. a couple times, but the gist is there was a god, there was a war between the beastmen tribes, the humans, and the demons, and then this group of humans figured out that the god didn't have a purpose for any of this, he was just an asshole, and so they were going to like do something about it, and then the god like turned the other people against him somehow, and then they built the labyrinths, and he's just trying to figure out, and she's like, oh, you're here to save the world and defeat God, and he's like, nope, I'm just going back home, I don't care about any of this stuff. In fact, I'm just telling you this to warn like my ex-girlfriend who thinks I'm dead, that you can't trust people because someone actively tried to kill me. And she's like, I can't believe it. He's like, well, you better believe it because it's true. Adios. So he leaves. And then at the very end, him and his harem are headed off to like the next labyrinth or whatever. And then the teacher and the student's like, we're going to come with you. And he's like, no, you're not. And then she uses the power of being a good teacher to convince him that to let them come along. And he's like, all right, fine, but if you get in the way, I'm just going to leave you behind. And then she's like, how are we going to keep up with you and your super fast motorcycle? All we got is dumb horses. And he's like, don't worry, I got a Humvee too. Good stuff. So now we're on to finding this Count son or whatever. We got a whole crew of people that are virtually non-entities. With Hajime and Yue and Shea. So we spent some time. He's got drones. Because why not? Fuck it. So he sends the drones out. They find the party that they're supposed to rescue the guy for. And they're all dead and burnt up and whatnot. And then they're able to track. They find a giant footprint, and then they track the nobleman's son. Thank goodness he's still alive. The only important one. And he has some PTSD stuff, and Hajime like slaps him and says, shut the F up. You lived. Enjoy it. Stop being retarded. And then they get attacked and then he explains that there was monsters, and they were getting beat up by a bunch of monsters, and then a dragon attacked. And then the dragon attacks them, and then we have a nice fun battle where Hajime has like a giant shield, and Yue uses her magic, like the gravity magic, to knock the dragon down. And they fight and fight and fight, and eventually they knock the dragon kind of out, like put him to sleep, essentially. And then Hajime's like, there's only one weakness to dragons, and that's the anus. And so he gets a big rod and shoves it right in the dragon's anus to kill it. And then the dragon is a woman. And she's like, whoo! And yep, that's where this goes now. So then we get some Hajime and the dragon going back and forth, and she reveals that she was tricked and that she's dragonborn, and that all the dragonborn are also supposed to be dead. And then Yue knew some of them because she's like thousands of years old because of the imprisonment and whatnot. She's our vampire, lowly queen. 1,000-year-old vampire. And so she vouches for the dragon, saying like, yeah, I was always told to be more like dragonborn ladies when I was growing up and being taught how to be a noble. So I trust her. She looks like she's being honest. And so Hajime's like, all right, fine. So he pulls the thing out, and then she turns, and as he's pulling out, she causes her to have like orgasm, clearly. And then she's like a sexy kind of like Japanese looking elf thing when she's not in like dragon form, I guess. But yeah, so some dark power like came and like cast a spell to mind control her like all day while she was taking a nappy-potamus. And then also it's sending like 1,000 people to go fight like this town that they were just at, Faerun or something. And then Hajime uses his drones to spy on them, and it's not 1,000, it's like 60,000. So he's like, oh, tough nuts. So, it's not Faerun. Faerun is where he's going to return the master to the guild master to do his job. And so he drags them off. And then the lady, the teacher, and all that, we get some expose about how she really treated him well before he became like a superpowered. And so he's got like a soft spot for the teacher because she was always nice to him and helped him out with stuff. But then, he doesn't care about the monsters destroying the town because obviously why would he? And it seems like they're going to just ignore that and take the kid back to the thing. But there's some like discussion, so it seems a bit unclear. All right, so the next 2 episodes of Arifureta, we finish up the monster battle. So our boy Hajime decides at his teacher's bequest to fight the monster army, and then him and his crew, which includes the new pervy dragon lady, make a short work of that. And they find the master of the group is this kid who came across with Hajime. And then the teacher's all sad about it. And then he takes her hostage and is threatening to kill her because like the demons that he made a deal with to get more power want her dead because she's the goddess of agriculture or something. At some other point, Hajime makes like a whole big deal about her summoning him and like her being the one in charge, and he just works for her, kind of to like give her more rep with the populi. And we see some of their relationship, just kind of, Yue comments on it a little bit, and how he's willing to do stuff for her. And, he mentions again that she like hooked him up in life, I guess. So then Hajime and crew, now with the Dragon Lady, like they peace out, which is just in episode 11, which starts off with Shea being like, hey, you said if I did well, you take me on a date of this city. So they return the Count kid, and then they go and kind of look at a little date, and then they hear about like a merfolk lady, and apparently the merfolk are the only beastmen that the humans like are okay with for reasons. Anyway, so these episodes are like very interesting, kind of on a side note, in that they'll like talk about doing something, and then that thing will have like occurred. So they're like, oh, there's slavers here. Oh, they got this merfolk girl we heard about from this talking fish we met in an aquarium. And then we just see them with the merfolk girl, like giving her a bath. Like, oh, we rescued her. But then they like turn her into the guards so that she can return to like her family. But then the slavers come and like capture her again. And then Hajime and his crew like just essentially destroy all the slavers in the whole city trying to track her down. Like they just massacre them, blow up a bunch of their bases, and just go to Hogtown. And they eventually rescue her, and then there's like, meanwhile, Shea and Hajime are doing that to start. They started their date, they rescue the girl, she gets captured, they start looking for her. This whole time, meanwhile, we get a little background of the Dragon Girl. Apparently, like, her village was destroyed, and her dad was like, someday someone's going to come and kill God, because God's the one who killed, like, their village. So you want to help them. And then she, like, shows back up to, like, another village of, like, maybe dragon people. I don't know if they were dragon people or not. It seemed like they were. And she's like, I'm back because I feel a presence of something. And he's like, oh, yeah, God summoned a bunch of people from another world. So that's interesting. I feel like that's the most key point of this whole episode, like, long term, is like, oh, so God summoned these guys. I wonder what that is. So then Hajime, and so that's like before she joins. And then her and Yue spend like the day discussing things, and Yue kind of lays down the relationship where it's like her and Hajime are like together, and then if Shea wants to join in, that's fine with her because no one's going to take Hajime away from her because of reasons. And, the Dragon Lady gets called a perv a bunch of times because she's like into BDSM, I guess, and like because she got a rod up her anus. I don't know. Anyway, Hajime and Shea eventually find Yue and the Dragon Girl. I forget her name. And so then they all team up. And that's when they like wreck shop and rescue the little girl. And like, now we got the little merfolk lady. And she's part of the crew now for at least the last 2 episodes. So fun times. All right, so episode 12 of Arifureta is just not very good. I don't know where this show's really going. It's got like one more episode. I don't know if there's going to be a second season or if there's a second season or whatever. But thus far, it's been like fine. I like some of the concepts that they're running with. It's pretty cliche, generally. It's like a monster girl, harem / isekai overpowered hero anime, which is all things I enjoy. So I'm enjoying myself. I just don't know if I'd ever watch this again or think about it again, to be completely honest. Like, it's not doing anything. And it just doesn't spend enough time with like what I care about. Like, Overlord has kind of like a similar thing going on. But it's just fun because Overlord's just being Overlord, and even when they go off and like the Lizard Men doing stuff, it's not for long, and it like sets up like a grander thing that's going on. So I've generally enjoyed Overlord as an anime. I just downloaded all the audiobooks for the light novels it's based on, so I'll get around to it. But for this one, it's like I have no interest in like reading the light novels. Like, there's nothing about this that like really stands out as anything. And then maybe it's just like, it just feels like it already feels rushed. Like, oftentimes you'll get some of these that are like in their 4th season or whatever, and it starts to feel rushed because it's like, okay, they are probably like running out of money or whatever. So they just want to like knock out as much as they can. But this just like, it's like 1st season, and it's like, I feel like this is like 4 volumes of like a light novel series. I don't know if it's even based on a light novel series. It just is like cruising, and it's like, I just don't care about any of these characters. And that's the problem with episode 12 here, is that it spends almost the entire episode with like the classmates getting killed by a demon or being beat up. I don't know if any of them actually died. They beat up by a demon in the original labyrinth. That Hajime and his like harem, monster harem, just happen to be like there for an unspecified reason. And then one of his classmates like shows up to the guild that they just happen to be at. And I don't know why they're back here. They're looking for labyrinths. They've only done 2. right? That was much more interesting when it was like, all right, let's go find all these labyrinths. This is like, okay, so what are we doing back in this town? I don't know. I don't remember them ever specifying like why they're here. And then the guy just like shows up and happens to be here. And then, you know, he goes back and forth with this guy begging Hajime to like do something, and him just being like his usual, like, I don't give a fuck, bro. And then the people just getting beat up by a monster, like a sexy demon lady monster, and similar for summon monsters. And at the very end, Hajime like shows up to like save the day, which leads into the final episode of the season, I'm assuming. So, but it's like the episode is trying to get me to care about these characters that I haven't seen high nor hair tail of since for like 10 episodes. And it's like, who are these people again? I don't care. Like, you kind of started off in the first couple episodes kind of like establishing some connections with him and a couple other characters, but then it's just like moving on, right? So it's like, you're asking me now to care that these people are in peril, and I'm with Hajime. I'm like, and even makes some comment. He's like, it feels like it's been years, but it's only been a few months. And I'm like, yeah, that's how I feel. Like, who are these people? I don't care. I have like a whole crew of people. These people like essentially abandoned me. They were just like classmates in school. That doesn't mean too much. Like, there's plenty of people I went to school with that I'm just like, meh. Like, would I run into a burning building to save them? Probably not. So let's just be honest. Most people would not. So I'm just kind of like, Like, so I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, but I guess he's gonna save them, which is fun because it's cool when he does like cool, fun stuff. That's like, it's like watching old shonen animes. You just like seeing Goku beat the crap out of dudes, even though you know what's gonna happen, and it's just fun. Hey comrades, what's up? So I just finished. Pardon me. Oh, I know you're hungry. We're gonna go to the park and then you can eat. That being said. We just finished season 1. Yeah, we're going to get you food. Just give me a sec. We finished season 1 of Arifureta. The strongest man in another world, or strongest in another world, the strongest, something like that. Anyway, it's an anime based on a light novel. I looked it up. So I've been recapping the episodes, and then I just looked a bunch of stuff up. Oh, I guess I should finish it. So the 13th episode wraps up. Hajime and crew just completely destroy this demon lady and her cadre. And before Hajime kills him or her, to the chagrin of the hero character, he finds out that somebody else is clearing labyrinths and that they got some sort of magic to like summon monsters or something. And she's like, my lover will get you. And he's like, whatever, I don't give a fuck. And then we get to the important part, which is the priest lady, Shiroki or something like that, finally confesses her love to Nagamo, who's Hajime, and declares that she's going to come with him. And then everyone sees that Yue and him are like super lovers. And so she gets very jealous. And they have like a standoff, and then Yue's like, you can come, just so I can prove to you that I've completely dominated Hajime as my lover, right? So that's how the tale ends. We also, Yue calls out the guy who like tried to kill Hajime at some point, because so she knows. And then Hajime gives the samurai lady like a katana. And then her and the hero have like a conversation about her leaving someday, and she says, you never know, which means she's probably going to be added to the harem. So now the harem, at the end of the first season, is Yue, the best girl, lolly vampire queen, or princess in this case. We have Shea, the buxom rabbit lady. We have Dragon Lady, who's a pervert, and then we have Priest. And then we have the daughter, who I don't think is going to be part of the harem, because that's not the kind of anime this is. So yes, so that's where we're at. That's where we stand. So it's a nice crew of harem ladies for this teenage boys fantasy anime. So the funniest part when I watched this last episode is, like I said, I've been watching this with my daughter because she likes Yue, the vampire princess, because she loves princesses. And when she heard she was a princess, she wanted to watch every episode with me. And so when the priest lady, and my daughter's 4, when the priest lady was like, I'm coming too, I'm in love with you, my daughter was like, why does everyone like him? And my response was, oh, because he's the main character in what exactly did I say? He's the main character in a a teenage male power fantasy anime. And her response was, oh, okay. Because she's 4. Not that she understands anything I said. It's just because she asked a question and I gave her an answer. So now, yeah, okay. Got it. I didn't like obfuscate or anything. So any of you who have younger kids, that's the way to do it. That's across the board, you know? Like your kids are like, what's that? And you're like, oh, that's my pee-pee. It's secret. They're going to be weird about it. But if you're just like, that's a penis, I pee out of it. And they're like, oh, okay. And the questions will cease immediately, I swear to you. As a former child therapist, that's the best way to do it. Anyway, so, where was I? Oh, yeah. So, okay, so I looked it up. All right, so that's 13 episodes. We wrap up. The crew, the Hajime and his harem are headed somewhere, ? In the SUV that he's crafted. And the battles were cool again. This anime's done pretty well. It's like, the story doesn't make a lot of sense, but the babes are cute and there's varied enough. And then, you know, it's like the Moe's strong, if you will. Moe, M-O-E, if you want to look it up. I'm not going to explain it here. It's strong in this one. And then the action's fun. So it's kind of like, well, whatever. It's just like good times had about. So I looked it up. And I found out there is a second season and some OVAs and apparently a third season. So I guess we're going to get more of this at some point. I got to like figure that out and torrent it. I don't know why I didn't torrent it all originally, but I don't know. Maybe it's just when I did it, it wasn't available or something. I don't know. So I got to look this up later. So then we can watch the second season and see where that takes us. And the thing is with this, it's like, I almost was like, okay, cool, that was good. I was done with this. But I'm like, second season, I'll watch it. Because it's like popcorn. It's like a popcorn flick, right? Like, I'm not walking away from this being like, wow, I changed my view on everything. Or like, you know, as a person, I've like become better. Like, this really made me think, or like, this really touched my heart. But it's entertaining. And, you know, that's nice. So we'll track that down and then watch some more. But yeah, it's based on a light novel that I guess is already wrapped up, and there's like a whole epilogue and everything that I kind of glanced at, but I won't spoil it here. So that's interesting. I don't think I'd ever read it. There's so many other better things to read, or new things, right? Just new and exciting things. But yeah, that's Arifureta season 1. Enjoyed it. It was pretty fun. But you know, if you're not into like a male parafantasy harem anime, and I've seen some of these that are like pretty egregious. Like, the one that's like, I summon a demon lord or something. I tried watching that, and it was pretty boring, to be completely honest. This is like, every episode, almost, is like, pretty action-packed. And so it's like, you know, even though it's kind of dumb, and the story doesn't make a whole lot of sense, the characters are fun, the main character is cool, and it's just like, it's like a comic book from the 90s. You're just like, wow, that was cool. What happened? I don't know. They just like fought, and there was like, boom, boom, and then bang, bang, and then bam, bam, and they said something like, oh, I said something badass, and then you're moving on, and you're like, that was awesome. Like, 13-year-old me, Comrade Bear, is like, yeah, that was rad. So we'll keep watching it. All right, cool. Catch y'all later.